processes, discover the joy of learning. And we need to understand that exploration is just as important than getting the predictable right results or answers. It's important to get the right answers, but trust me, exploration is equally important, irrespective of the result. Now, for a child's inward creativity to be expressed, real opportunities of self-discovery must be available to them. Now, research shows that children with positive social skills, creative nature, they're very important, I'll come to it later, and a love of learning are more likely to experience success in later school years. Now, however, today's emphasis on early exposure to academic content, because as we see, children are starting this journey really early, right? That means little attention is being given to developing the effective skills that can make a critical difference in child's future. Now I'll talk of three C's, which to me are really important: creativity, curiosity, and courtesy. Now, when we talk of classroom instruction, it can support the development of academic skill. But as you're aware, that 21st century skill, when we talk of 21st century skill, there has been a lot of discussions, a lot of literature on 12 skills, 12 21st century skills. I won't repeat them in this forum, but out of those 12 skills, there are 4 skills, specifically 4 C's. Again, I'll come to 4 C's that are often considered to be the most important. Now, so what are those 4 C's out of 12 21st century skills that I believe are important? First and foremost, critical thinking. And why critical thinking is important, I'll come to it in details. Second, creativity. Third, collaboration. And fourth, communication. So communication in today's age, I'm sure all of you will agree with me, is very, very important. Now, these 4 skills are essential for modern students to succeed in school and the workplace. They often make the biggest impact in terms of setting your students apart when applying for and starting their careers. Now, first and foremost, we discussed about 4 skills. So we'll begin with critical thinking. Now, critical thinking, as all of you are aware, is a practice of solving problems among other qualities. In addition to working through problems, things like solving puzzles, similar activities, and critical thinking also includes an element of skepticism. Now, this is important in the 21st century because it's really harder than ever to verify accurate information. Now, why do I say so? Thanks to internet, there is so much of information at your disposal that is not only about gathering information, it's also about ensuring that facts are correct, doing a fact check. Because a simple Google search will many times result in different answers from different platforms. So today is not only about gathering information, but much more importantly, getting the right information, getting the relevant, pertinent, and updated information that's relevant for you. Thus, critical thinking empowers students to discover the truth in assertions, especially when it comes to separating fact from opinion. Now, there's a very big difference, right? One is a fact check. Second is somebody else's subjective opinion, which may differ. Me and you might have completely different take on an individual aspect, and both of us might be correct. We might have our own logic. We might have our own assumptions. Now, unless and until you look at the whole thing from a wholesome perspective, from a holistic perspective, and understand the background, where it is coming from, the assumptions, etc., it is really difficult to judge. Thus, separating facts from opinion. So today, if you look at today's learner, because today's learner is tomorrow's professional, right? Today's student is tomorrow's nation builder. They are going to be our future leaders. So for them, unlike us, as we discussed, gathering information is not a challenge. It's about verifying information. It's about ensuring that they're able to separate facts from opinions. Now with critical thinking, students they just don't learn a set of facts or figures. Instead, they learn how to discover the facts and figures for themselves. It's really important, right? It's not about giving someone a fish, but teaching someone how to go fishing. So the objective is to teach them how to discover facts and figures for themselves. Now, they ask questions. They become engaged in the world around them. They help others think critically too. Now, that might be the most important part of critical thinking. Once one student has it mastered, it quickly spreads to their peers. So peer-to-peer learning really kicks off. But it's important to at least ensure that one member of the group has mastered the art. Whether they learn how to think critically from spending time online or simply asking why in everyday's life. Because life is the biggest teacher, right? If you start questioning each and every activity, each and every thing that you see around you, you get answers. So whether you learn these skills from online or by asking a simple question, this skill prepares students for a life of independence and purposeful thought. Still, critical thinking is just one of the 4 C's. We discussed about 4 C's. So critical thinking is just the first C in 21st century skills. It works fine when students use it alone, but when students combine it with the next skill that I'm going to discuss now, trust me, sky is the limit to what they can achieve. So what is the next skill? Next skill is creativity. So we have spoken about creativity in this forum time and again. And there's no denying the fact that creativity is the practice of thinking outside the box. Creativity is that secret sauce and creativity really defines a person. It really distinguishes a person, a brand, a company, a persona. So while creativity is often treated like you have it or you don't, students can learn how to be creative. So I don't necessarily believe that creativity is always inborn. I believe creativity can also be developed, amplified by solving problems, creating systems, or just trying something that they haven't tried before. That doesn't mean that every student will become an artist or a writer. Instead, it means they'll be able to look at a problem from multiple perspectives, including those that others may not see. It's really important to look at things from different perspectives to bring in your own unique thought process in terms of analyzing the problem and coming up with a solution. Thus, creativity allows students to embrace their inner strengths from big picture planning to meticulous organization. As the student learns about their creativity, they also learn how to express it in healthy and productive ways. More importantly, they also become motivated to share creativity with others. And then again, just like critical thinking, creativity also can be contagious. One student creates an interesting or innovative solution to a problem. Imagine in a group, one person coming up with a unique, innovative solution and shares it. Naturally, other students are inspired to try something similar. Now, that's not to say that every single creative endeavor will be a ringing success. Students will fail at times, but it will be a huge movement. It will be a tsunami. It will be there is a huge cascading effect. Now, the point of creativity is to encourage students to think differently than being conventional or only following the set pattern, right? Because as we all agree that in no profession whatsoever you can excel or you can do really great by just following a set path or just by memorizing facts and repeating them. especially in today's age, when any fact, any number is available at your fingertips. So no one pays you for just reiterating them. It's about bringing in your own unique thought process. So they don't have to do things the way they have always been done. Instead, they can figure out a better way. Students don't have to embrace their creativity alone either. In fact, as we discussed critical thinking, then we discussed creativity. Likewise, the next skill that I'm going to discuss now is really important to amplify creativity. And what is the next skill? Collaboration. Now, collaboration is a practice of working together to achieve a common goal. The collaboration is really important because whether students realize it or not, they'll probably work with other people for the rest of their lives. And that's true for all of us. Virtually every job, every single job requires someone to work with another person at some point. Even if it's for something as simple as what to get for lunch. Now, if you're working in a group at office and someone wants to order lunch, someone wants a working lunch, someone wants some heavy stuff, someone will vouch for continental, someone else for Chinese, someone wants a simple ghar ki thali, close to our hearts. So, practicing collaboration and teamwork helps students understand how to address a problem, pitch solution, and decide the best course of action. Because it's really important to listen to others, appreciate their point of view, and then come to a logical solution. Collaborate so that and come to a solution which is acceptable to one and all. So after critical thinking and creativity, collaboration also is really important. It's also helpful for them to learn that other people don't always have the same ideas that they do. Students need to come to terms with the fact that not necessarily my friend sitting next to me is going to have exactly the same idea or same opinion. In fact, as students start practicing collaboration more and more on simple things, very simple things, they learn that almost no one has exactly the same ideas that they do. Because no two human beings can be exactly identical. Now, this can affect students in one of two ways. There can be two possible outcomes. Now, what are the two possible outcomes that can happen? First, it could discourage them since nobody seems to agree with them that often. Second, it could embolden them, encourage them, strengthen them, because they realize they are bringing something unique to every conversation. That gives you the strength. As educators, it's crucial that we encourage students to look at themselves through the second lens. We need to celebrate the difference. We need to ensure that children are self-assured, they are confident enough. There's absolutely no reason to ape the guy sitting next to you. It's completely okay. You can be comfortable with yourself if you're thinking differently. Because every human being in this world has a story to tell. Your story, and that's completely fair and justified, will not have exactly the same script. Thus, I think the way students learn, students will also learn to speak up when they have an idea. It's important not to hold it back. It's important to speak up. They may not be accurate 100% of the time. That can happen. That's quite logical. And some of their peers at times might have strong opinionated reactions also. You say something and you see the entire group disagrees with you. But it will teach them to speak up when they are working with others. Because we are teaching them for real life scenarios and not necessarily the entire world will agree with them. So they need to learn how to handle differences. Last skill, so we discussed about critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. Last skill, which is very important in today's age, is communication. Now, communication is the practice of conveying ideas quickly and clearly. Now, in today's age, often communication is taken for granted. It seems if you're saying something, then you convey the idea, right? But not necessary that it's always true. Because in the age of text-based communication, which today we believe in text-based communication, right? Two people sitting in the same room might be communicating with each other on WhatsApp chat. And that's logical, that happens everywhere. Families, they gather together for dinner after seeing the message on common WhatsApp group that, okay, now dinner is served. So SMS, emails, social media, etc. The challenge with this is that these text-based communications lack tone. There's no voice modulation when it comes to text-based communication. And tone or voice modulation is critical to understand the context or background to someone's word. Depending on how you say something, you might be conveying a completely different meaning altogether. So when it comes to text-based communication, it has its own challenges. Still, even in situations where vocal tone is available, students need to learn how to communicate effectively. Now, when you say communicate effectively, that includes minimizing tangent, speaking directly to an idea, and checking other participants to make sure that they are engaged. Also, it's really important to read your audience, even if you're conversing with only one person. Because you need to understand whether you keep on expanding on an idea or wrap up the point. For students, their audience could be as simple as family members or extended family members in the social function. The point is that as students practice the art of communication, they become better at efficiently conveying an idea without losing their point in the weeds, so to speak. With communication locked down, students can streamline their ideas and make a positive impression on those around them. Still, it's important to note that communication itself isn't enough on its own to help students with 21st century skills. Now, to really succeed, these 4 skills that we discussed about need to be used together. All these 4 skills need to come together. And when all these 4 skills are used together, there's a huge synergy effect. There's a huge synergy in play. It's like 1 + 1 = 11. At times, when I say this, it might sound generalized, but that's how it works. Critical thinking teaches students to question claims and seek truth. Anyone might be coming to you with facts, but how do you seek truth? Creativity teaches students to think in a way that's unique to them. It's completely unique. It's your offering to the world. Collaboration teaches students that groups can create something bigger and better than you can on your own. Today's world, whether it be corporate world, academic world, the world at large, today's world needs team players. So collaboration teaches students that groups, when you work in a group, your impact can be much more. But for that, you need to be tolerant enough to give a patient hearing to the other person, appreciate his or her point of view. And when you appreciate his or her point of view, you also need to understand the background. Communication teaches students how to effectively convey ideas. It's not only important to have a great idea, but to effectively convey it in a language and sensibility that the other person understands. When you combine the 4 C's, it really empowers students to become great thought leaders, and they can achieve a lot. Now, I think these are some points that I wanted to make. And as I told you, that the art of discovery has been at the core of Notebook. So even when we started our journey, we were very clear that the biggest challenge that we faced was not what to teach on the domain space. The biggest challenge was how to teach, how to ensure that we are able to get attention of our students. In today's age, when we see attention span is so short, with so many alternatives actually jostling for space, for your attention, and children are equally busy. So being able to ensure that we create engaging content, being able to ensure that we are able to be relevant, add value, and respect. When I say respect, I mean respect the students' time. I believe children are equally busy. Their time is equally important, if not more. They're busier than us with so many activities around. So how do we ensure that we give them maximum value for their time? How do we ensure that we are engaging enough? How do we ensure that we ignite that passion for curiosity? Once we're able to do that, rest is a natural process. Learning by and large is a journey of self-learning. So we had a fantastic experience on this, and I believe the art of discovery is one of the most important aspects when it comes to today's pedagogy, when it comes to today's classrooms. And the role of teacher, considering the fact that it has undergone sea change from an information provider to a facilitator or a moderator, being able to ensure that students take interest in a topic itself is the biggest challenge of today's educators. That's my take. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing, and I look forward to hear the views of our esteemed panel on this. Over to you, Shubhaya.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And I think this sets the stage perfectly for the discussion that follows. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the part that you've eagerly been waiting for. We have two esteemed panelists with us today. I will just take a couple of minutes to introduce them and then start the discussion. We have with us Dr. Preeti Manekar, who is principal of the Hind English Medium School Gurukul in Pune. She has had 20 years of experience in HR consulting, group training counseling, competency assessment, and competency development. She has a PhD in competency requirements of interviewers, and she has published a paper in the 63rd All India Commerce Conference at Goa in 2010 on business education at Crossroads. She has consulted more than 100 top clients, especially from IT industries, from Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore, for their domestic and overseas operations. She is an established adult trainer in the areas of personal intelligence and competency development, and she is a trained assessor, having had a wide experience of assessment centers, and her clientele includes very senior professionals, including CEOs and managing directors. She has been offering personality clinic services over the years that add to the quality and the gravity of human performance. She is a core consultant to the ambitious Social HR Project of Intelligence School. The project seeks to drive people out of the complexes of non-formal education. Her social perspective of collective human growth is based on the fact that whereas the accumulation of knowledge is expensive, the application of knowledge, also known as intelligence, is very cheap. Since majority of the schools do not teach intelligence, all those who could not go to school have actually not lost much factually. Her efforts are therefore to create consciousness for intelligence and the intelligence profile than the academic performance. She is the prime messenger of the intelligence school. To be educated is to be competent. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here today. It's a privilege to have you here. We also have with us Arunji. He is the former principal of the Delhi Public School in Bhatinda, and he was the principal there until very recently. He has been an English teacher, and he designed and delivered courses for a wide range of learners preparing for schools, colleges, or competitive exams. He also helped the students acquire the communication and soft skills that are essential for their success in the interviews for jobs. He has created enough resources for the students to learn the basics of English grammar. He himself is a bilingual writer, adept both in English and Hindi, and he's had several articles and blogs to his credit. He also translates poetry from English to Hindi, and some of his own poems are available in both the languages. He has received the International School Award from the British Council for leading the integration of international learning in his school for 2017 to 2020 and 2020 to 2023. Sir, privileged to have you with us. I will now stop my share and we can all switch on our cameras. I would also request you to unmute yourselves. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Very good evening.
Good evening.
Ma'am, if I may come to you first, your initial thoughts about today's topic, the art of discovery from the point of view of school education.
first and foremost, good evening to all of you, and I thank Notebook for giving me this opportunity to speak out on such a wonderful topic. Okay, my opening thought first, I would like to throw a few questions to all of you. Okay, when child is born and he just 1 year, who is teaching him crawling? He is discovering his skill on his own, right? In case if I ask any of the teacher to teach him crawling, I don't think teacher will take up this assignment. Okay, it would be very challenging. If after this, I mean, he's learning on his own walking, he's learning on his own jogging. Whenever the toy is gotten for him, first, rather than using this toy, what he will do, probably a child brain would like to investigate. Okay, like how wheels are running and how this is going from here to there. Okay, and maybe the child will try and break the toy and find out. It is parents who will teach him or stop him from doing this destruction. But I think destruction is a first step towards construction. If you have to build an empire, okay, I think we have to dig earth. So destruction, I sincerely feel, is the first step towards construction, and it is we as a parent and it is we as a teacher, we are curtailing or cutting down this competency which God has already inherited in children. So this is my question, like in the name of objectivity, in the name of I mean focused learning, we kill the creative instinct in the child, we kill the discovery, self discovery, what passion he has got, because child is continuously, I mean, observing in surrounding. If a child is in family sphere, once he comes to school, then in school sphere, then in society, he would like to copy and observe. He is a great observant, but he is not aware that at the age of 5 he's been put in a school, or after 5, and all the teachers will come and they will start education. Look here, open page number so and so. Okay, listen to me. I mean, these kind of comments or instructions, I feel certainly cut close his brain. Like he will feel, no, I need to listen to my teacher and I'm not allowed to think on my own. So this is how I think. I'm very happy that this new this new policy, NEP 2020, is really going to cut all these things, and they're talking more of experiential learning. They're talking about more of art integration, and this is going to work very positively on students, and teacher have to struggle a little bit to adapt to the new situation. But from students point of view, it is extremely good. So I feel discovery is not something that eureka. Okay, two speakers, they were great and they have already covered this part, but still I would like to re-emphasize on this. Like when a child is admitted, somehow he is overburdened by competition, and he's communicated this message from society that he has to score well in 10 standard. Okay, the marks are focused. So the very basic the happiness and joy and the enjoyable part of the schooling is already taken away by these kind of expressions which we use. So I think we should give them a very free hand. You're going there to learn whatever you want to learn, you learn. Teachers are facilitators, they are not dictators. They are not going to tell you or teach you. They are going to help you whatever you want to learn. In that case, I studied all the 4 boards and their system, and I found they are already operating on this. In case if there is a photosynthesis topic, so they will not declare that today we are going to learn photosynthesis. They would simply ask a student to go to library, and they will already have a set of books. Student will browse through this, and they will create their own notes, they will draw some pictures, and they will come up and then discuss it in classroom. So I think this is from broader perspective to narrowing down. Okay, will definitely lead to discovery. Like when there is a last year we had been to Hyderabad for school picnic, and it was communicated to them that we are going to Hyderabad. Now children started asking, "Ma'am, how much time it will take?" No, why you're waiting for Hyderabad? Make your journey enjoyable. Okay, it was a train journey. You see new people, you talk to them, you visit, you observe, make a note of new towns, whatever is coming across. So journey, we should be, it is our responsibility to teach them, tell them to enjoy the journey and not the destination. Destination would be enjoyed, I mean, that's a part and parcel of it. Okay, that's an objective, but subjectivity is also equally important. That is my take to start with. And now, how we are going to do this, it's very, very important. So I feel all the five senses, five senses through which we are collecting data, it should be right from first year till the age of 10, it should be actively integrated with brain. Like eye should be integrated with brain, ear should be integrated to brain, touch should be, the feel should be integrated with brain, so that the child is having open brain to receive things, to process data, uh, to get that processed data into conscious and subconscious mind. And maybe at the age of at the midnight 3 o'clock, some recipe will come out in his brain. Something he will say, hey, Mama, I want to talk to you something. Teacher, yesterday you taught us this sulfuric acid, but I would like to experiment this. So I think this freedom, the freedom of speech, the freedom of experimentation should be given to students. Okay, and they should, of course, they have to given some orientation how to do this, but teachers are there to take care of that. Okay, so that is my take. Shiva, do I have more time to dwell upon another topic? I mean, to continue this topic?
Sure, ma'am. But would you like us to come back on that on the next question?
No,
Because
no issue.
I have a feeling, uh, I have framed some questions that should cover most of the topics.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I'll get across to Arun sir now. Sir, your initial thoughts about making students discoverers.
Okay, thank you, Subhayu, and thank you, Notebook, for inviting me here on this platform. Am I audible to all of you? Am I loud enough for everybody to listen? Am I right?
Loud and clear, sir. Perfect.
Okay. So, Subhayu, I think our two previous speakers and even Dr. Manekar have already dwelt on many of the issues and many of the points they have brought to light as to how to help the children acquire the art of discovery. I'll focus only on 2 points. One is that, and also from the school point of view, if you talk about a teacher-student relationship in the classroom, a teacher has to create a welcoming environment for the children to help them acquire the art of discovery. And that welcoming environment, if I say, for you have to be democratic. You don't have to follow the old traditional method of authoritative thing, that be quiet and all those things. All these things are gone. You have to empower the children for their all the kinds of processes which are there in the classroom for learning, right from maintaining discipline, following the rules of participation in the discussion and everything. uh, Let the teacher discuss with the children, and then of course the teacher can guide also, but the rules should be set, and let the children follow the rules, so that they become part of the process of following rules and they feel empowered. And at the same time, of course, it has to begin with the teacher. The teacher should keep in mind that he is there with a diverse group of students. He may have his or her personal opinions, but they should not come in the way or in the process of accepting and welcoming new opinions or different opinions. So he has to be, or she has to be, neutral in the class as best as it is possible. I remember that I'll give you just one example about a debate. uh, a debate like Kalam or Talwar, which one is mightier? The pen is mightier than the sword. So a student asks the teacher, sir, you tell me, you are on which side? I mean, during the debate. The teacher can say that, okay, you decide. I mean, of course, at the end of the debate, after the debate, the teacher can give the opinion, personal opinions. So I'm just saying that. there can be an n number of, so one is the welcoming environment in the classroom, which has to be extended in the school and the entire school, and if all the teachers, and of course that starts with the management and the principal and all, they create an environment in which the children are encouraged to express, encouraged to, interact and ask questions, and then discover. And also welcoming environment is one, and then the strategies in the classroom, the project based learning or learning by doing, or debate, discussion. I mean, you can think of n number of solutions, and whatever issues are like learning languages or learning science or learning social studies. You can give them projects. You can help them do research and come out with solutions in groups. They can do collaborative learning, and all such things can be done. So what I want to say is that, yes, these are the two things I would like to convey. One is the children should be welcomed, and that welcome word, when I say it, should be planned, not just offhand thing like, yes, I welcome children. And that also, you see, empathetic attitude. It should be in the classroom. If I say that I welcome all the students to ask questions, have you any questions? One is this. The other is your approach, your attitude of empathy. It should be reflected in what you do, how you conduct in the class, how you establish the bond with the students. And that is not possible in one day. Telling all these in theories is okay, but in the classroom, how to do all this, that depends on the teacher. Even online, I'm saying, even online, not, I mean, right now in the pandemic, the teachers and the students, they are not in the classroom, in the actual classrooms. But even in the virtual classrooms, there can be ways and modes where you interact and you give them work, let them do, and then reserve your opinions at times, and encourage new ideas. And you should have your own ways of conveying as to what is right, not exactly telling them or dismissing their ideas and all that. So that might discourage them to ask questions, and then that art of discovery you want them to learn, that would be difficult to do. It already happens in the class, in our own culture it happens, in the homes, in the school also. If it happens, then the children would be just following the rules and as they are doing, and then of course, so that culture has to be changed, and all these. So I'm that's what I want to say. I think more when we discuss. I think if you ask questions, I'll tell you.
Wonderful, sir. And I think that you have followed a lot of this in your teaching comes across,
Yeah.
because on the Q&A panel, we have one of your students who has now turned teacher. Moshumi Ghosh says, Arunji sir was my English teacher at DPS Bokaro, and what a privilege to hear him today. I think this is the first where we have had, teacher and student both becoming teachers.
If you ask me, individual questions, because most of the points have been covered by the speakers, I can tell like this can happen in this. I can give my inputs. I don't know. I'll not have the final word. I will not say that this is the best thing to do. It depends.
Don't worry, sir. I am very good at playing the devil's advocate.
Right. Okay.
I'll come back to Dr. Manikar. Dr. Manikar, sorry, I cut you short back there. You had to add a few points, I guess. Ma'am, you're on mute. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Now, what I wanted to add that time, that giving mental space is very, very essential for discovery. I mean, generally, I use this byline that come discover, and if not invent. If you can't discover anything, you invent something, because discovery is something that it is there, but you are trying to unleash that particular thing. Invention is a little different. Okay, but as a sir mentioned that definitely this is difficult to do inside the classroom unless and until you have a set rules and regulations. Now, the moment we talk about rule and regulation, it is detrimental to creativity. creativity is anything and everything which is derailment. Okay, which is not routine, which is not system oriented, that is creative. Okay, so to have this kind of a thing in a classroom, we have given set certain rules that brain activation has to be done. Now, how you will do brain activation? Like in corporate training program, we do ice breaking. Okay, so similarly, we can do even in classroom ice breaking, that we call brain activation. Because believe me, in case if brain is activated once, it is very difficult for even teacher to stop that. The child will continuously be on that particular subject. Okay, so brain activation is one thing which we have trained teachers how to activate brain. That is one. Then brain formatting. Now, what do we mean by brain formatting? Like brain, in case if there is a maths class, and in case if you're teaching percentage, so give similar type of questions as assignment. Maybe 1 by 4 minus 1, 1 by 4 minus 2, 1 by 4 minus 3, like this. So maybe up to 1 by 4 minus 100. So in this, if child is doing this kind of exercise, then he is doing brain mapping, brain formatting. Now, once the brain is formatted for that particular skill, then a lifetime he will never forget that. He will never make any mistake, even at subconscious level. Okay, so I wanted to talk about brain formatting. I wanted to talk about brain, and a third thing I want to talk about, integrated learning system. The creativity or the discovery will come only when, like, my drawing teacher will give maths. How? That you have to draw 3 flowers having 6 petals, having 4 branches. Okay, don't think that this kind of sums only are possible at the age of 1 to 4, at the standard 1 to 4. This creative sums are possible even for 10th standard. We have designed, and it's very interesting. Now, students, they come up with a drawing and saying, "Ma'am, this is a solution to your question." Okay, the answer, that is something discovery, I feel. So every teacher, they, rather than being dictators and rather than being uh, trans uh, translating loads of knowledge, I think they should open their windows, they should open children's mind, and let them wander wherever they want to go. I mean, with water, you can connect, the child can connect to the water, which is a drinking water, or maybe sewage water, or maybe a sea, or maybe a water cycle. So this freedom we should give. There is one a positive activity we have in our school, that is asking one question. One class, I mean, the question, they are promoted to ask questions to teacher. Answer they don't have to give. They only have to ask question. So there is a board which is there inside the school, and every class, okay, 5 questions for a week they have to write. So this is how, they feel privileged, that it is always teacher who is asking us question, and it is we who has to search answer and give. But now here is an opportunity for us to ask question to teachers. So these kind of practices in school, I think definitely create an environment of more and more thinking, will give mental space, will give faith in students that yes, they can venture on something on that platform which is not comfortable, or where they may make mistakes. And I feel more and more you promote them to make mistakes and ask them to rectify on their own, rather than you giving them solution, will lead them to creativity and discovery. Okay, so that is what I wanted to add. Yeah, over to Shubhai.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much. Arun sir, I'll come back to you. As I said, I am going to play the devil's advocate. So while I'm the co-founder of a technology-based education brand, I am going to fight against technology right now. We live in the age of Google. All discovery has become clicking that search button. Now, there's something called choice paralysis that people undergo. If you're in a shop shopping for a pair of jeans, if there are too many varieties of jeans, your choice paralysis happens and you walk out without buying a single pair of jeans, right? Do you think with information and discovery, this holds true? In today's day and age, how do you ensure with too much of information available that students still want to discover?
Okay, that's a very valid point, Sumayu. In fact, you have already mentioned that I was recently there in BPS Bathinda. And let me also share with you that I taught, of course, my core subject is English. And in Bokaro, or even before, about 5 years before Bokaro, I started teaching English. I did my PhD in American literature, on American literature, actually. So that all these are there, but in Batinda, until 2 years back, I was teaching English. But due to compulsion, in fact, the teacher had left, so I had to take up a subject like political science. And I'll come back to that. And with an example, I'll tell you. And I was teaching 11th and 12th. And so recently, also I was teaching up to this session, that is up to October, I was teaching political science. And in pol science, I was teaching, all those things like Russian Revolution, then the Cold War, and then end of the Cold War, and all such things. So, in the course of hegemony, U.S. hegemony is one topic which I was teaching, and in U.S. hegemony, I gave the children a case study of Russian occupation of Afghan, no, I think Iran-Iraq war, sorry. The first attack on Iraq by the US, which happened during the period of the first, what is that called? The president before him, I think, whoever, in the 90s he was.
I think George Bush Senior.
Yes.
I think it would be George Bush Senior, perhaps.
Yeah, it's George Bush Senior. Yeah, in the junior also it happened. So I gave them the case study, and I wanted to see. I knew they will come up with all those opinions and views, because internet is flooded with one kind of views only, and the Western views. They would be. I mean, to tell you the fact, that is a fact, because it is flooded with the media and the newspapers and all that, and it was fed by one government. We know that. So they all came out that yes, and they projected that guy, Iraq's president, who was that? I don't remember. Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was projected as a villain, and then George Bush as the hero, and all kind of things. But then I said, while you are researching, it is our responsibility to see all types of views, and in fact, diverse views. And in fact, most of the time, always, if you see that two opposite views, if US and at that time, there were two superpowers, in US and Russia, they are saying the same thing, that means there is some validity in this. Right now, if it is US and China, they are saying something similar, then they may be, if Trump and what is that, the head of China, or maybe head of North Korea also say the same thing, then there is something. So what I mean is that in any kind of discussion or debate, if you have opposing views saying the same thing, then so you should have diverse view, and then you draw conclusions. Your views are from the same source. Then how can you draw conclusions? I gave them a few speeches, and one important speech that I gave was the rival of this Biden. In Democrats, there were two persons. No, one was Biden, and the other was more left.
Bernie Sanders.
What is that?
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders. Yes. Sorry, I'm thanking you. Thank you. So Sanders' speech, I gave them. I found it out. In fact, I was also finding it difficult to get that, but I searched and searched and searched, and then I found it out. And then I told them that this guy's speech, you see, this is an American, a senator, and he is saying not that it is good for or bad for what. It was not good for the US citizens. In fact, that decision of George Bush, and why did he take and all those things he had mentioned. And so then the tide turned and the children started thinking from a different angle and all that. So I want to share it with you that I write actually articles on Wikipedia, and on Wikipedia you have to share only verifiable facts, reliable information, and if you don't do that, they may be deleted and all that. So in this age, it's very important to teach the children how to Google also, and how to find out information which is reliable, which is verifiable, and otherwise all trash. And what comes and what you see at the face value may not be true, and generally not true actually. We know that. So it is more important. So critical thinking has become more important today. It is, we know, because of that. Earlier, the knowledge was limited. Knowledge was being transferred from parents to children, from teachers to children, and that was limited, that was fixed also. Now knowledge also is changing. It was changing earlier also, but the pace of change is very rapid. And children, if they have to survive, they have to learn the skill of lifelong learning, and that art of discovery is very, very important. If they know that, they would know what kinds of jobs will survive and what not. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they would be able to do that themselves. If they just become parrots, then those jobs are not going to be there. We know that AI is coming, and already that demon is there. I mean, demon or whatever. So creativity is important. So I'm sorry. So I have crossed the limit.
Not at all, sir. As I said, despite being on the tech side myself, I am going to play the devil's advocate today.
Right.
I will, however, come back to Dr. Manekar. Ma'am, your school is in Pune.
Yeah.
And going by the demographics of your student, you would typically have people whose parents are engineers working at an automobile firm, or or a TCS or a CTS or one of the tech firms, right? Now, these parents are in their perhaps contemporaries, achievers, so to say. So when you want to make the teaching more flexible and more freedom oriented, that discovery as an art is inculcated, do you think parents will take that very well? Will they cooperate?
Till last year, I had been requesting them to spend some creative time, maybe quality time, valuable time with students, so that they should parents will become hero in their life. Because unless and until kids they follow their parents as achiever or hero, they will not follow them. Okay, but in case if children have this feeling, no, my father is very selfish and he would like to achieve more and more in his life, and he is very little concerned about me. So I mean, this kind of a counseling I was offering till last year, but I could not see much from parent side as they were very busy. But in event of COVID, it last over 8 months, like parents are available at home, and what I could see, whatever events we are having, parents are wholesomely supporting them. I mean, they have time, and probably they have nothing else to do except their online working from home. So they find this as a very good shift or entertaining activity. But yeah, last 8 months, what is my experience that all the students, even I mean those students who were requiring remedial inputs, they also started doing well because of parents' intervention. Now, when it comes to creativity and artistic mindset, there are both the things. I mean, parents, there are type of parents who would find it burden on them, and like Tyson, he was I mean, I think I'm sure I'm right. Tyson was a boxer. Okay,
Yes,
he
ma'am. Mike Tyson.
yeah, Michael Tyson. So in his childhood, he used to push refrigerator or big objects at home, and his mother was really, I mean, finding it very great nuisance he having at home, and it was difficult for her to nurture his talents. And now probably I think uh, little later she discovered that talent. So these parents are not they have to have a faith in unseen. Like we don't know what these kids are going to do in future. Like I always take this example, Jija Mata, she was not aware whether Shivaji would be a greatest warrior or no. Okay, but still she invested in him all the skills, and subsequently it proved. So every parents have to have this faith in their children and give them a self-image. And in case if they are not in a position to take care of this competency at home, they should definitely consult some teachers or mentors. They should appoint mentors for their kids for this creativity, but they should not stop child being creative at home. And I think parents are educated and they are showing a very good positive, uh, they are giving positive inputs to kids and making facilities available for them to flourish their creativity. Okay, this is my experience and my take on this.
Wonderful, ma'am. Arun sir, I'll come to you with the same question. Uh, but given that your background is in literature, I'll try to show off my little bit of literature knowledge. The Pygmalion effect seems to be in play at times. Sorry, my power just went off, so I guess I'll have to switch off my video.
It's okay.
Sir, do you think this Pygmalion effect is easy to explain to parents that if you put your faith in
Your
something?
voice is a little low.
Sir, is it better now?
Yeah. Pygmalion effect, you were saying.
Yes, sir. Like, would it be easy to explain to parents that if you put your faith in a particular system, put your faith in the unseen, your students will fare better? Is that something that, in your experience, parents buy into?
It's a very open-ended question, Subhayu. I think, yeah, I mean, the answer is, of course, yes. Whatever it may be, the parents, once they put the child under the care of a system, whether a school or whatever, they have to trust. Before they put, they should, of course, verify, they should find out, they should research, and once that happens, after that they should of course trust. But yes, I also would say that that trust should not be blind. They should also be monitoring and guiding the school and the teachers in their own ways, or not that they should say that they should be done like that. And I mean, teachers, parents have to be collaborators and partners in the learning process of their children, and an important stakeholder. So parents should trust the system, but they should come out with from time to time to help, to collaborate, to give inputs, so that the school or the system should be able to add more value and enhance their whatever is required. And so it's not that a yes no answer, I would say. Exactly. But faith, of course, they should have. Ultimate trust should be there. Without trust, of course, nothing can happen, whatever the system may be.
Wonderful, sir. Was not expecting a yes or no answer. As I said, I am going to frame my questions to put you in a spot. So
Yeah.
you will have to excuse me for that.
I mean, in fact, I am more comfortable answering questions than delivering the speech.
Perfect, sir. Uh, my just last question to both of you. Personally, I am a biker. I take my motorcycle and ride across the country, and that has been my biggest sense of discovery of this country, and that is by talking to various kinds of people. How important do you think social skills or the ability to talk to different kind of people are in the terms of students learning the art of discovery? Uh, Dr. Manikar, if we can come to you first.
Right. Uh, in my term, I address it as a social intelligence. Every individual is living his life in four different spheres. That one is individual, another is family sphere, then a professional sphere and social sphere. Now, as far as school life is concerned, social sphere acts as a very, very important, uh, it plays very important role. Why, I'll tell you. Because in school, it is a class. When we talk about class, a similar age, similar, kind of a student, okay, more or less similar kind of a thinking also, they influence each other's views. But when they step out of class, when they interact with students of other other class, other standards, I'll say, and other schools in inter-school, or when they attend social function, that time I think the biggest learning is happening. Why? Because India is a biggest, I mean, is a country who has got great diversity in terms of culture, ethnicity, language, accent, dictions, values, festivals, so on and so forth. So, I mean, the more child opens to another person who is not belonging to him, or he is not a who is not a family person, or who is not from his school, more and more information, diversified information he is getting. Okay, now in doing this, initially he might get confused. Like my papa told me like this. Now uncle is talking about like this. Okay, teacher is telling me this. Now my auntie is saying something different. Okay, so these kind of confusions are there. But when we talk about hot engineering, so it has got a very systematic process like infusion. When you take injection, some liquid is getting transmitted to your body. So similarly, some new thought is coming to you, so it is getting infused in your brain. Then comes diffusion. Thus, the solution is getting diffused in blood. So similar thought. In this, in 8th standard, we talk about that particle is the smallest element of this earth. But in 9th standard, we talk about electrons, protons, neutrons. So the child may wonder, teacher ko wo pata nahi tha. Teacher was not aware that particle is not the smallest particle, but it is electron and protons and neutron. They are smaller than this. But no, that age, that knowledge was required. Little, I mean, later stage, additional piece of knowledge you have added. So it will create some confusion. The moment you diffuse the data, it will cross-check with your earlier learnings, and you have to de-learn something. Now, when you will de-learn, it will create confusion. But in thoughtix, in thought engineering, we call that confusion is nothing but one step before you get convinced. Okay. So in social sphere, the more and more child interact with others, like in train or in any social platform, any social platform, we suggest them. Okay, we propose them. Go and have interview. You should have an interviewing skills. You should interview. If you're in the garden, you should interview some old people. Okay, or maybe some senior citizens who are sitting around. If somebody is doing yoga, you ask at least 5 questions based on yoga. Okay, so we promote this curiosity or asking questions or interviewing skills, which gives them more and more diversified, individualized opinions. Okay, I think someone already has talked about opinion and thoughts. Okay, how these are different. But children will learn on their own. So when a child is going through a process of infusion, diffusion, confusion, conviction, and then action. Okay, so he would be very sure that what is his take on this particular, like marriages should be celebrated in a big way, or we should curtail the cost. Now every in social sphere, all the different opinions will come, but soon the child will know how to form his own opinion. For the time being, he may get influenced by others' opinion, but little later he will have his own inside out thinking or views. And that is how I think, see, nothing in this world is original. Everything is adapted. You take certain piece of art and you develop that, further develop that, and then probably you'll present it as your own original. Okay, even for poetry, I think we take one thought, we get some inspiration from somewhere, so it is coming from somewhere, and you develop your views on that. So I think more than school, children learn outside. In school, probably they don't learn life skill, they learn technique, technology subjects, physics, maths, chemistry, biology, they learn like this. But outside school, they learn life skills, they learn real life, whatever is required, real competencies they imbibe. Okay, so that is how, I mean, my views.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much. Arun sir, if I may come to you next, your thoughts on the importance of social skills.
Okay, Shubhayu, it's a good question. But the answer is already there in the question, and the precise answer of the question, what is the importance of, how important the social skills are. So if you say what is the precise answer, I would say very important. But then, of course, if you ask me to go beyond that, then I would like to tell you that social skills have been important during all ages, but there have been societal changes. There have been changes in the society. See, earlier we were living in the agrarian society where joint family used to play a very important role, if you recall. And I have been raised in a joint family. We came from villages. So we knew, we got those skills by default. Of course, the skills or the level of skills which we used to have, or which I had acquired, or what my generation may have acquired, may be different from what now is required. But we had got how to interact with people in the society, how to convey things, how to communicate, and all that. And of course, we learned otherwise as a part of my profession. Also, I learned. But later, when the society moved from agriculture to industry, and the industrialization kept on growing and growing, and the society also kept on changing and changing, and from joint family to nuclear family to single parent family, and all such things are happening. So I would like to slightly differ with ma'am here when she says that the school is not the place where they can acquire social skills. I would say school is the place. She may say, or we may say, that classroom is not the only place, but school is a very, very important link today for acquiring social link, I am saying. When I say link, I mean the entire network that the child has is being used in their life 24 hours, and it is there 24 hours that way. So that way it is there, and with the mobile and all the internet is coming, they are linked. So social skills they are acquiring and they're learning. Of course, how they are learning, what they are learning, school has to play a very important role, because home has already abandoned, has already deserted that role. The parents now, even if they want, they can create an imaginary environment. They can't create the real environment as such, because they don't have social skills. So the responsibility has fallen on the school, whether they do it in the classroom. But in the classroom, of course, ma'am, I would agree with you that in the classroom is not enough, but classroom can be used. Projects can be given for collaborative learning, for learning beyond the classroom, with the kind of work they can collaborate on outside the classroom through internet and all such things, so they can learn. So these are the various sources by which they can acquire. And the teacher has to be the facilitator, the school should be the facilitator. So, yes, social skills, if you say how important they are, the answer is already implied in that. But how the changes have taken place, how the school's role has, improved, how the school has to play a key role. And of course, your ed tech companies are now playing roles, and they have to play roles. So all these, so I would, rather than school, I would say the institutions or institutes. How so? That will be probably a neutral term, I would say, politically more correct term.
Wonderful, sir. On that note, I think we've had a fantastic discussion, but in the interest of time, we'll have to wrap this up. Once again, Dr. Arun, Dr. Manekar, thank you so much. This has been really, really educative for me personally, and I'm sure for everybody else in the audience. I will now hand this back to Achin for his vote of thanks. This has been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much. Achin, over to you.
So I think, thank you, Shivayu. Really wonderful session we had, no doubt about it. And the panel discussion was really interesting today. I really love the way the topic was deliberated upon. But sir, thank you as always for your great opening knock and for highlighting some very important aspects with regard to the topic. Indeed, I think you really give us a flying start as far as the discussions are concerned. Dr. Manekar and Arun sir, I really thank both of you for your time and for making some excellent observations, which I'm sure are going to be key takeaways for our esteemed audience. And personally, I really enjoyed the session because as I told you that this topic is really close to our heart. In fact, at the core of our entire brand DNA. Dr. Manekar, when you discussed about 4 different spheres of life and the importance of social sphere in school life, I think that is really, really important and promoting curiosity. Arun sir, I completely agree with you when you say that social skills have always been important. And the way society has evolved, starting from an agrarian society to industrialization to a service sector based economy, and today we are taking a step further. We are moving towards a knowledge economy. And of course, in a knowledge economy, education plays a key role. And all of you, all esteemed educators in this forum, your roles are very, very extremely critical in times to come. It has always been critical, but the importance only increases with the way the entire society is changing. And also observation, Arun sir, with regard to the transformation from joint family to nuclear. Myself, I have grown up in a joint family. I completely understand where you come from. Because as it says, it takes a village to teach a child. So growing up in a joint family is a completely different experience. The entire learning journey, the entire discovery is a completely different experience. Listening to stories from your grandparents, from your uncles, aunts, everybody contributing, everybody ensuring that the child is productively engaged, that the child develops. Vis-a-vis that, today's economic necessities, challenges of real world, small nuclear families, and its own share of challenges. I guess that is where we really want to contribute in our own little humble way by promoting the art of storytelling and how it ensures in increasing engagement. So I think it has been really great and interesting discussion. I thank all members of the audience for their time and really look forward to your support in sessions to come. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Take care.